So which one of these do you think I am ditching and not going to be growing in, and hope you don't either?
And be sure to watch the whole thing because there's tons of tips even at the end.
Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California, and I know a lot of you are getting ready to start planting outside. Some of you are going to buy soil, some of you are going to make your own soil, and some of you are planting straight into the ground. If you're doing container gardening, I think this is a good video for you. Or if you're going to buy some soil, it may be something you'll want to kind of listen to and then think about. Over my shoulder, back there, I've got a few different bags. These are purchased. Some of them are name brands, some of them are not. Well, let me tell you something. There's a couple of them back there. If I grow in them, I will have no success in gardening. So one of them in particular is so bad that if I plant anything in it, my gardening season pretty much ends at that moment. There is something called persistent herbicides. It is a product that is used on a lot of different plants, including grasses, and it gets inside, and it's inside the plant. And even if a donkey or a horse eats it, let's say hay, it will go through their system and end up in their manure. That's what's ending up in a lot of these bags. Not all of them. I only have 4 of them back there. But the point what I'm saying is if they don't test for it, then they don't know it's there.
Hay could be treated with it, lawns can be treated with it, different plants can be treated with it, and even though they break it down and turn it into compost, that persistent herbicide could still be present.
And not all companies are testing for it because it costs thousands of dollars to test to see what exactly is in there. I'll talk about which ones I like and which ones I would say to stay away from because of personal preference and what happened to me, personal experience. The first thing you may want to do if you're going to buy some soil is take a few handfuls, put it in a pot, and test it. Test it with something you don't really care about growing. Maybe throw some radishes or something in there while you're getting your seedlings in the house taking off. If it grows and it has a rich green color, then you're good to go. But if they grow real slow, or they come up and they look yellow, or they don't come up at all, that should be warning bells. That should say, wait a minute, something's wrong, because plants, seedlings are eager to grow. They want to grow as fast as possible, especially in the spring and the summer, just as we're getting into growing season. Now let's talk about some of the bags back there. The red one is topsoil. I'm not sure where they got it. A lot of stuff says forest matter, leaf matter, organic matter. Organic simply means something that was once alive sometimes. It doesn't always mean what you think, but something that was once alive. And so organic is basically, maybe this shirt is nylon, that's not organic. But if my pocket I made was made out of cotton, that would be organic. So sometimes there's a play on words when it comes to organic. I just want you to be successful because last year I talked about this and there were so many that came back and they planted all their beautiful seedlings outside and everything fizzled out. And that was the end of their gardening season. There is a white bag back there. I'm not sure if you can see it, and it's called potting mix. You can't grow a thing. I've tried it. Now, keep in mind that every batch of potting soil or garden soil that is made, that is composted from a factory, is going to be different because every pile is going to be different. A lot of it comes from trash companies. Now our trash companies are picking up recyclable material and organic material, okay? The organic material meaning food scraps and stuff, they're going to break it down, they're going to sell it to somebody, it's going to get bagged up, and then you're going to get it. I have actually gotten free compost from a trash company once that was giving it out all over. That was the deadliest thing I had ever seen. Brought onto the property, Gary had it, I had it. There wasn't a plant that could grow in it. Nothing was growing in it, everything was dying back, and we ended up having to shovel up everything, which was trash cans full, and throw it out. That's why testing and making sure what you're using that's safe will be good for you, and that's why you have to do that. Now the tree that I'm sitting under, all these leaves falling, I know it's my tree. There's no spray, there's nothing on it. I actually grow in the leaf matter coming off my tree. But when it comes from these bags here, I don't know what went in it. I have found plastic, I have found all kinds of stuff because they do put it through a shredder. And then at that point, you don't know what got in it. The plastic itself isn't going to be toxic unless it's a number 3 that maybe came from oil or glue, whatever the containers were used in. Then you have a problem. Now, I will say the yellow bag back there, which a lot of you may recognize, that potting mix, I've used it for the past 6, 7, 8 years, and I have never had a bad bag. It's actually one of the cheapest potting mixes you can buy. It works. There is plant food in that, so keep that in mind. So you can feed your plants too. You know how I make compost tea and I shred leaves and put chicken scraps. Well, if you have chicken manure, you can do that. But I put all kinds of kitchen scraps and things back into my soil. I constantly feed my plants. Well, that's perfect because that will tell you it might last 6 months, but 6 months for what? Tomato plants, squashes, some peppers. They pull a lot of food, which means it may only last for a month, which isn't enough time for your plants to produce food for you. So you may have to give it an extra boost.
And I want to get this in here quickly. See this lettuce? This was grown in Miracle Grow, and one was grown also in just my own soil I made. This one was grown in a soil that I bought at a dollar store, and they do sell them at multiple dollar stores. So you may see this brand. Some of you have said you couldn't grow in it. Some of you have said you can grow in it. Every batch is different. The one I got, nothing grew. So I'm not going to buy this anymore. It's $1.25 for this little bag. It's not worth it. And that's what I ended up with. This is now 3 months later, and it's still sitting that size. It was yellowing. It's a little green, but it doesn't work. So think about the soil before you buy, because you don't want this. You want this.
We don't buy any type of plant food or fertilizer. We make our own. We make it from our own plants and trees, including the plants that we're growing back there are vegetable plants, and it works. It works for us. If you want to buy fertilizer, that's up to you, but I prefer to go Mother Nature's way. The big thing I really wanted to talk about today here is to give you awareness that just because you're buying something from the store doesn't guarantee that the potting mix or garden soil you buy is safe for your plants. You can contact them and they'll say, well, we're sorry, we didn't hear anything, or what are they going to do? You're not going to test it because it costs thousands, and that's why the only way you can test it is by growing in it. So I wanted to give you a heads up. If you're looking for something, really expensive, you can go with Dr. Earth. That is truly organic. There's nothing in there. There's no herbicides or pesticides or anything in there. It's a little more pricey. There's other types of soils you can get that are even higher in price. I mean, like the yellow bag, we're looking at $16 to $18 for a 2 cubic foot or 50 quart bag. That's how much that costs. But then the other ones cost more. And if you're spending that much more, it better be good. The white bag, that was $3.50, even though it's only 1 cubic foot. Think about the pricing. And the topsoil, you can get those as cheap as $2, and you're not sure what's going to be in it. Don't use the manure that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever that's designed actually to go on grass, because if you put that on your vegetable plants that you're growing, what could happen at that point is you could end up having something bad in there that went through the cattle's system that was still there that is not good for your plants. So I would definitely stay away from that because you don't know what herbicides, persistent herbicides could be in that. If you're getting manure from somebody you could ask them if they know if the hay that they're using is treated or not. They may know and they may not. They may be buying organic hay. If they are, and they've got a vegetable garden, or you want to take some home and try it, go ahead and see if it works. But sometimes you end up even with Bermuda grass in there, if it's good. But the problem is we've had Bermuda grass choke out everything once before, and we had to clear out the beds, and we couldn't grow in that because we got some donkey manure. And though the manure was good, it was so good, it was growing Bermuda that had gone through because it contained Bermuda in it, the hay. So think about those little things. I personally use the yellow bag on the top. I compost and do my own soil by collecting leaves and plant matter around my garden, and then I add in soil that I used last year, and then I put sometimes a couple inches of the yellow bagged potting soil on the top. That gets my plants growing and started, and in the meantime, as everything underneath in the totes are breaking down, by the time they send a lot of their roots, it's like in 2 months, in less than that, everything's broke down. And let me tell you something. Seeds and plants will grow in breaking down matter, not broken down, breaking down matter. I have seen this for years. I have grown squash in my yard, dumped in kitchen scraps in the containers, no soil, and the squash and tomatoes grew beautiful and created its own soil as it was growing. So that is live soil. Just as Mother Nature does, leaves fall, and as they fall, this leaf on the top here doesn't break down. As soon as another leaf falls on top, it covers the one that fell under there. This starts to turn into compost. So if you think about it, look around, see how Mother Nature's doing it, and then you decide how you want to do it. But if you've got problems in some of your containers and you think, I've done everything right, you probably did. You may have ended up with some soil that had persistent herbicide in there that did not do you right. And it was not your fault, it was their fault. So think about it, ask questions. I can get more into this if you want to know more, because it's so important to know, because I want you to be successful and I want you to grow something, and I don't want you to spend a lot of money doing it, because after all, it doesn't cost Mother Nature a penny. With that, have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye. It doesn't cost her anything. Maybe I should just plant under a tree. So let me add a little ending on to this. I don't really throw soil away except for that one that we got from the trash company, the free giveaway. They got it back. Cost us our back-breaking jobs of shoveling it up and throwing it out. But these, I'm not going to be throwing any of them away. I'm actually going to take these two here and the topsoil, and I'm going to put it in some totes or large containers around the property that I don't plan on growing on. And then what I'm going to do is add in some leaf matter and try to bring life into it. If I see earthworms come to it, and if I see plants and even weeds start to grow in it, then I'll know it's safe for me to add into my containers as I build up new totes or new buckets or whatever I'm going to grow in. This one, of course, I'm going to use. I have never had any bad luck with it. Thank goodness. It's always been pretty good. But I'm going to go ahead and dump those somewhere, get them set up, and I'm going to water them because I want to bring life back into it. If they don't grow anything, because I had some that I put into other totes and nothing, I threw lettuce seeds and nothing grew. So I knew it was no good. And then I did have one that started to grow some grasses, weeds that flew in, and as soon as I saw that, I know we're almost there. I don't want to throw it away. I mean, I spent a lot of money to get it, and I could return it, but it's not worth it. Some of them is from last year because I started to grow in it and it was no good and found out, oops, it didn't work. So that's the easiest thing for me to do. Throw in a lot of leaf matter, tree-collared leaves from the garden as I clean up, because everything that is in my garden goes back in my totes. Just like Mother Nature, with the trees behind us and everything, all that falls to the ground. Well, that's what I do. And I'll keep an eye on it. And hopefully, I'll be able to use it sooner than later.
And I ran off and did it, and let's see what I did.
So here, this is what I'm doing with this soil. I can't grow in it. So I set up these two old retired totes. They're 18-gallon totes, and they're a little trimmed off the top, so they're going to be less, but I don't usually fill to the top. Now, I trimmed the pepper tree a little bit because it was in my head, and I couldn't get my camera set up. So you use that, of course. I told you, I use a lot of the leaves from the trees that are around here. So I did a good trimming and put that on the bottom. So now I can set up my camera. Now it was a matter of putting in all kinds of leaf matter from the garden, and then I started to dump in the bags. So there's the first bag gone that I opened to get rid of, and that covers the bottom. It's all plastic pieces in there. It could be the way they put the plant food in there. And then I continued to use scraps from around the yard. Then I covered it with another bag, and I still have more bags to get rid of. So now I had some kitchen scraps that were in the yard, and I stuffed my towel rolls with colored leaves. If you thought you saw maggots in there, you did, because I left it outside for like 2 weeks, and maggots got in there, and that's okay. They're breaking down the food matter. They're doing exactly what earthworms would do. It's outside. It's a good thing. Now I went back and got more leaves from the garden. And a lot of this is collard and kale and whatever I trimmed. There's seeds and stuff, and another bag. The rest of the bag went in there. Reality set in how many bags I used just to do this. And I could have used one more of the white bag, but I had the topsoil nearby, and since I don't know anything about it, decided to put that on top. This is very similar how I would set up a tote to grow vegetables in. And I have to continue to water these totes to keep the soil alive. Now it's a waiting game. We just wait and see if the earthworms find it, if things start to break down or anything tries to grow in it. And I could stick something in there too that I don't really care about and see if it grows. And if it does, I could start to forage from those totes. If not, we wait to see if plants are growing or earthworms come. And like I always say, drainage. This must drain because we want this to come alive. Because the critters we want in there to keep this soil going need oxygen, be it earthworms or microbes. They can't live underwater.